temporary. Same thing, that one's off. So, there's Mr. Hall.
Good evening, everyone. Glad you could join us tonight. This is the first time in, I guess, nearly a year that the City Council has actually been able to meet in the council chambers. We are not quite ready open to the general public, but the council is here. We will have one councilman joining us by Zoom. Ms. Mary Smith will be joining us by Zoom. We always proceed each council meeting with the word of prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance. If you would like to, please feel free to join us. And Ms. Isby, could I ask you to word our prayer, please, ma'am?
If you'll bow with me. Our gracious Father, we thank you for the many blessings that you've given us. We just pray, Lord, for all the families who are suffering with losses during this time. And we send up a special prayer for the family of Ronnie Hall, our former city engineer. And we just ask, Lord, that everything that happens in this meeting, that it will be glorified in your sight. And we just pray, Lord, that you get the glory in all that we do. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now call this meeting to order. Mr. Garrett, would you call the roll, please, sir?
Mr. Hawkins? Here. Mr. Grimes?
Here.
Mr. Pruitt? Here. Ms. Mel?
Here.
Mr. Ledbetter?
Here.
Ms. Smith? Mr. Jones? Here. Ms. Isbey?
Here.
All righty, you should have received copies of the City Council for February 23rd, 2021 with minutes. Any corrections, changes, or comments?
Make a motion for approval as submitted. Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes as submitted. Let me click that out so maybe it won't do that again. Any further discussion or any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 8-0. All right. Before we start tonight, I would like to thank you, Ms. Isby, for mentioning Ronnie Hall's family and for wording our prayer. Ronnie was a lot of fun to work with. I know Mark Ledbetter and I would be out with him at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning at a flood somewhere, and Ronnie's answer was always the same. He always had it under control, but you'd say, "Ronnie, how you doing?" He'd say, "Well, I'm tired."
That's him.
But then he'd get right back to work. I'd also like to give a big shout out to Patty and David Stobaugh. Back during all the winter weather, they kept our street department fed. And even though they were closed, they came in and took care of our people. So David and Patty, they're supposed to be on Zoom. We appreciate all that you've done. Also, our city attorney, Mr. Finkenbinder, and Officer Andrew Foreman and Matthew Boyd have really been working hard in keeping our children safe, our school kids, and getting on to people and actually writing tickets for people going around our school arms when they're down, they're letting a kid off. And that will help us avert a tragedy here in Conway. So Charles and the officers, I appreciate that. Officer Joseph Bruno responded, I got that right. Michael, I'm sorry, I got 2-3 names here. Officer Michael Bruno answered a call about a baby who had accidentally swallowed some pills and ended up quite possibly saving the baby's life. It happened Tuesday a couple of weeks ago when a panicked mom called 911 to report that her 17-month-old son had gotten into her medication. When Officer Bruno got to the scene, the mom was outside in the yard holding the baby and screaming for help. Officer Bruno grabbed little Nathan, I'm sorry, should have called his name, and checked to see if his airway was blocked. He then turned the baby over and performed the Heimlich maneuver until the baby started breathing normally. Officer Bruno held the baby until paramedics got to the scene and took over care. The baby did not have to be taken to the hospital and is home resting comfortably today, and we are very appreciative of Officer Bruno's quick actions. And one more, Conway PD officers William Fosco, Andrew Foreman, and Charles Reynolds on February 10th. They responded to a call from a gentleman who was in distress. That gentleman sent a message to Conway PD thanking them. He is a 28-year-old, and he's calling these three officers his heroes and credits them with saving his life that day. He shared that he was relapsing and dialed 911. He said while he realizes people in the state of mind that he was in that day can be hard to deal with, Officer Fosco, Foreman, and Reynolds treated him like a human being, and they gave him hope and a chance to get better. And he appreciates them and is thankful for how they handled the situation. And then I'd also like to thank Tim Huey from the Conway Airport, who got out and helped clear snow as well. So that's something we want to try to do, is recognize our city employees citywide who stand out. And so thank you to those folks. At this time, we'll start with our community development. Mr. Hawkins, we'll turn this over to you.
Sorry. It's new equipment, folks. It's new equipment. Everybody beware. Thank you very much for that help, Mr. Grimes. I appreciate it, and let's get this going. First item is a resolution to modify the professional service agreement for the Markham Square Water Quality Demonstration Project for the Transportation Department. We have a resolution to be read for this item. It's Resolution R2113. And I'll take a motion for this, and then we'll let Mr. Vinson tell us all about it.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve this resolution. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 8. And then I'm sorry, I should have asked for discussions. Anybody want to discuss this? I'm trying to operate off a computer here, and I'm struggling back and forth. Mr. Vinson, would you talk to us about this, please, sir? Cannot hear you, Finley.
No.
Bart, turn your hearing aid up.
Oh. Mary, I've been meaning to ask you, how's Jimmy doing?
Hey, Aaron, got any suggestions here?
He went back to check something.
Okay.
For those of you who are watching and listening tonight, this is really our first time in here in a year. And did we have any meetings prior? So there may be some bugs that get worked out tonight.
Mr. Mayor, can you hear me now? Guess I'm not. Well, Mrs. Smith, I suppose you could translate for me.
Yeah, that wouldn't help.
We can't really hear Mary either.
Mr. Mayor, while we're waiting, Mr. Mayor,
I'm sorry.
while we're waiting to get Mr. Vinson online, can I make a statement real quick?
Sure.
Do you mind?
No, sir.
Tonight at 7 o'clock on the UCA campus, the UCA softball team is hosting one of the top 20 teams in the nation, the University of Arkansas. And they play at 7 o'clock tonight. So if you are in that vicinity and watching us live right now, you might want to go and watch some great softball action tonight on the UCA campus.
Well, I'm going to take a side. I'm going to say go Bears.
You take a side.
Mrs. Smith, Aaron just texted me and said that he's working on it.
Okay, sounds good.
Maybe we can hear him a little bit.
I didn't realize
I
that.
think this too. Mayor McNeil, so that means
Mary, can you hear him?
Yes,
Okay.
can you hear me?
Okay. So I'm assuming if you can hear Mary, the public can probably hear. Is that okay? Go ahead, Go ahead, Finley, we may have to use hand signals, but go ahead and explain. It's real, the council knows what it is, but go ahead and explain to the people at home.
Okay, well, the original agreement with SWA only included essentially the engineering for the park, but did not include playground equipment and the deck and things of that nature. So this, and we've spoken with the parks director, he's got money in his budget to go ahead and build those items. So we're just amending the agreement to include the design of the playground and those features.
You're back.
Can you hear me now?
All right. Thank you, Mr. Benson. We've already voted on this, so Mr. Hawkins.
Okay.
Second item on the agenda, Mr. Mayor, is a resolution to approve professional engineering services for improvements to Mayor Lane for the Transportation Department. And Finley, I think this is up your alley as well.
It is the mayor may choose to add to this, but essentially this is an agreement for a good portion of this actually is for surveying, more than half of it actually, and then also a hydrologic study and some preliminary engineering for the realignment of Mayor Lane for a project that perhaps the mayor could speak to better than I could.
As you know, we have a company that's looking to move to Conway, and I think we're probably I would say we're very confident that they are going to come. They are wanting to build on the property east of Lewis Crossing there, Lewis Ranch, and Mayor Lane will have to be rerouted. And this company's, Mr. Grimes, if you'll help me, is it 500 jobs that they're going to bring to Conway? They're going to bring 500 jobs to Conway. So what we're going to do, if this council approves, is reroute Mayor Lane. What the interesting thing, or one thing y'all need to be aware of, is if this property closes, they are going to actually want us to close Mayor Lane on May 31st of this year. So we will have to reroute traffic. We'll have to get with Finley to do that. But if y'all so choose to do this, then I think it's going to bring a big business to Conway. From what I understand, it's about 1 million square foot facility, and it'll be a good thing for Conway.
Do they have a date set on closing the property, Mr. Mayor?
I know it's between now and May 31st, Mr. Hawkins.
Thank you.
Council, what's your wishes?
Make a motion for the adoption of the resolution.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve this resolution for improvements to Mayor Lane for the Transportation Department. Any other discussion? Mr. Garrett.
This will be R 2114. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed.
Passes 8-0. Mr. Hawkins.
Final item here, Mr. Mayor, is a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into agreements to acquire various properties for the Salem and Tyler Roundabout project for the Transportation Department, and we have a resolution to be read. It's R 2115.
Make a motion for adoption.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve this resolution. Any further discussion?
Mayor, what is the real estate contract amount for, do you know?
I'm going to let Mr. Finkenbinder address this, Ms. Smith.
Okay, all right, it's on all of them, actually. I didn't, the one that, there wasn't a total on, or a price on any of them, so.
All right, can everyone hear me? So the first one, the first resolution, this is gonna be for track 1. And the purchase price there is $29,000, which includes the square footage price at $323 a square foot, and money for replacement of trees and bushes, and money for trees and bushes to protect and preserve privacy and noise reduction. This is gonna be a property located on the northwest side of that intersection.
Okay, thank you.
And we did have, I know that you went by there a couple times, right, Charles, and talked to the Gowans?
That's correct. I've been to the Gowan's house actually 3 times.
Okay.
And I don't know if they'll let me come back, but
No.
I've been there.
So I know the Gowans, and I spoke to them, a couple things that they wanted to I think that you said was that they wanted to maintain the same amount of privacy as they did prior to. Did that entail bringing the fence up a little bit? Or, I know that there's trees added to there too.
Correct. They're gonna lose, when I went out there and did a site visit, they're gonna lose all the trees along that, side of the property that really runs along Salem. And so all those trees are gonna need to be replaced. And then because the wall is gonna be pushed back on their property a considerable amount to account for the widening of the roundabout.
Right.
They're gonna need some more trees back there and bushes to provide that privacy. Right now, anybody that drives along Salem and comes up along their house, if you're on Salem headed towards Kroger, and you intersect Tyler, if you look over your right, you're gonna have that wall in between you and the Gowan's house.
In their backyard, right?
Moving that wall back because the elevation is lower in the backyard where the wall is gonna be relocated. It's gonna lower that wall, which means that anybody parked there is gonna be able to look right over into their backyard.
Gotcha. So that's why we're raising the elevation. Okay.
Either the elevation of the wall, the way we've worded the contract is to give Transportation Department the discretion to do what's necessary in order to preserve that privacy. That was the main thing, was to preserve that privacy
Right.
and noise reduction.
Cool. Thanks, Charles.
I think raising the wall would be extremely difficult, but as I understand, when I looked at the number of trees they have currently, the cost estimate that they provided us for landscaping included a significantly larger number of trees, and so that's part of what was done for privacy and noise reduction. In addition, the existing intersection will actually be lower. The proposed intersection will be lower than the existing intersection, so that will help as well.
Concern was specifically that, they have the same amount of privacy as they did before. So that was the one thing that I think Charles spoke to him about, so.
Yeah, the cost estimate that the Gowans provided to me, they requested from the plant outlet a cost estimate that would provide them with privacy and noise reduction using landscaping exclusively, and we agreed to, that was what we based the landscaping cost estimate off of.
And they said they were happy with that estimate too, so.
Do we need to add the dollar amount to this resolution? Or should we add the dollar amount to these resolutions? To kind of cap it, or?
Yeah, I haven't seen a resolution that sets a dollar amount, but it could be done.
Okay. I was just asking if we needed to set like a maximum dollar amount that the mayor can enter into a contract?
Oh, yeah,
That's my question.
Yeah, let me clarify. So these resolutions are, these are agreements that have been reached when the city negotiates a contract with a property owner to acquire property. If a contract is prepared, a proposed contract, and it's sent out to the property owner by the Transportation Department. City Attorney's Office gets involved if there's any kind of breakdown in the negotiations, or if a lawsuit's necessary. If an agreement is reached, I write into all the contracts that it's subject to approval of the city council. City council has to approve any contract.
So we'll get the contract when it comes back through to approve?
Well, the mayor would sign the contract. What the resolution does is authorizes the mayor
Okay.
to sign the contract.
Okay.
But we could start adding the price that's been negotiated into the resolution.
Yeah, because I had that, yeah, I think I've always seen
in there, didn't it?
dollar amount.
I could be totally wrong, but I could have swore that we've always seen dollar amounts on.
We have, that I remember in the past.
Yeah, that's my only, I'm fine with, as long as it's legal, and we all know that it's $29,000.
Correct.
Okay.
Excuse me. It's me. So we're gonna start putting that into the resolution, the dollar amount in the resolution, correct? Is that what we're saying?
Well, I think that on other
That's fine.
other
I'm just-
purchases that we've done, land purchases, I think we've had a dollar amount.
Yeah, I'm just
That-
trying to find out exactly.
Yeah, that's my only,
That's fine.
I just thought we'd done it before, so
I think I just wanted to push the button, but that's fine.
you just wanted to talk.
Okay, council, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Mr. Garrett.
All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed.
Passes 8-0. Mr. Hawkins. I see this.
Now, we have several of these, Mr. Mayor. The next one is at 1705 Drury Lane, and this is property owned by Kathleen Jernigan. And Mr. Finkenbinder, I'm assuming the same situation has occurred there. Have you worked out details on that?
Yeah, Ms. Jernigan's contract, she signed that before the city attorney's office got involved. This was the contract that the transportation sent out. So she signed it and sent it back, and I believe Philip Vick has got it currently.
Okay. Very good. And
I
this,
make a motion for the adoption of the resolution.
and this is Resolution 16.
Is there a separate resolution for each one of them?
I think there is, yes.
It'll be 16?
Yeah. I have a motion and a second to approve this resolution for property at 1705 Drury Lane.
And how much is that one for?
Okay, so the purchase price for the square footage being taken for the roundabout is $2,200, and that's based on the appraisal. And then Transportation Department is adding $4,000 because 8 very large pine trees are being cut down for that. If anybody's gone through that intersection recently, they're huge trees. And so I agree, I think that's the right thing to do.
Yeah. Thank you. Any other discussion? Mr. Garrett.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. All opposed.
Passes 8-0. Mr. Hawkins.
Next resolution, Mr. Mayor, is property at 1560 Haley Lane. The owner is James White, and we have a resolution to be read for this. It's R2117.
Make a motion for adoption of the resolution.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve this resolution for 1560 Haley Lane for the street department. Any further discussion or any questions?
Value for that one, Charles?
Yeah, so this is one of the larger acquisitions, and Mr. James White is present for the council meeting tonight. This is 3,926 square feet, and the value is set at $19,633, which is based on a square foot price of $5 a square foot.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Any further discussion? Mr. Garrett.
All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed.
Passes 8-0. Mr. Hawkins.
Mr. White, you good with this?
He says it's all right with you? Yes.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Just want to make sure. Next resolution, Mr. Mayor, is R2118, Mr. Garrett. And this is property at 2905 Baxter Drive, owned by Charles Anthony. And Mr. Finkenbinder, what's our number on this one, please, sir?
All right, so this is going to be tract 4, and this is located adjacent to the property owned by Mr. and Mrs. Gowan, also known as tract 1. It's again along that northwest side of the roundabout. The appraised value is $4,800. That's based upon the value assigned by the appraiser that the Department of Transportation retained. I have met with Mr. Anthony at his home last week. We reached a verbal agreement, and I delivered at his request a copy of a contract. I have not received a signed copy back. I went by his house again. I've not been able to get him by phone or email. I went by his house this morning, and he wasn't home. So I don't have a signed contract. I've got a verbal agreement only, which, as everyone knows, for real property is not good until we get a signature.
Do we need
I
contingency?
make a motion for adoption of the resolution.
Mr. Hawkins, you have a question?
I was just going to say, do we need contingency plans just in
Well,
case?
I do
Charles?
have one. Here's what I'm requesting, is that the council approve the mayor's authorization to enter into the contract with Mr. Anthony for no more than that price. But I'm also asking at the end, because we expected, and originally we had all the resolutions set for tonight's meeting for approval for the city attorney's office to file condemnation lawsuits. As of Tuesday last week, we did not have any signed agreements. Between Tuesday and Friday, we have 4 signed agreements and 1 verbal agreement. So at the end, I will be asking as a contingency that you also authorize the mayor, or authorize the city attorney's office to pursue condemnation if that becomes necessary.
You need a motion for that?
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to proceed, and if we do not come to a signed agreement, then we will start condemnation process. That what everybody's agreeing to?
We would rather not do that.
The gentleman's been real good. Everybody over there's been great to work with. I don't foresee a problem. I don't, but
I don't either, but we would, in order to entertain a resolution to authorize condemnation, since it's not on the agenda, I believe that the rules would have to be suspended for that to be taken up, and I've got a resolution drafted for that.
Okay.
I believe that we'll be able to reach an agreement. He seemed eager to get this thing signed, but he also seemed like a very busy man. He's very hard to catch at home. And I'm good at that, but.
any further discussion? Mr. Garrett,
All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed.
that passes
That was
8
an aye.
to 0.
Oops. Do we need to suspend the rules
That
now?
would be my preference, to take it up now.
Okay.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to suspend the rules. How do we want to say this, Mr. Finkenbinder?
It would be a motion, a second, and a vote to suspend the rules to add this matter to the agenda, a resolution approving and authorizing condemnation proceedings regarding this track 4, Salem-Tyler Roundabout.
Okay.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt or pass a resolution as to what was read into the record. Any further discussion?
Now we got to vote to
I'm sorry, did I not take a vote?
yeah, now we got to vote.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to suspend the rules. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Now we're back in the game. All right. We have a motion and a second to approve the condemnation proceedings should the need arise, based on what was read to the record. All right. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 8 to 0. Thank you all for helping me stay in line on that deal. Mr. Hawkins?
And if I could, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
If I could, just by way of explanation, so by the time that the Transportation Department is under a tight time schedule to get this project started, Conway Corporation needs approval so they can go out there and reroute the overhead power lines. So everything's kind of waiting on that. So the reason that this seems rushed, and it was, is because they've got that deadline to meet, and that's the reason for all this. Otherwise, I would have suggested it be placed on the agenda after we get all the signed contracts back.
Sure.
So I just wanted to explain that. That was the reason, is they've got a deadline coming up. And they've made a huge effort before they got us involved to try to get agreements.
Good. Charles, are we okay now with everything that we need to do on that particular piece of property?
Yes. Was the resolution authorizing condemnation on track 4 approved?
And, yeah, and that's what we needed.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Hawkins, I think do we have one more piece?
We've got one more, yes, sir,
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, we do, and this is, Resolution R 2120. And this is property that is at 8 Valley Cove Drive. It is owned by the John H. Duke Revocable Trust. And, we have a resolution, R 2120, and I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion for adoption.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve this resolution for property number 8 Valley Cove Drive in Conway. Any further discussion or questions?
Mr. Finkenbinder?
So this is the property that's located on the southeast side of the roundabout. There's one property located along there, owned by the Duke Trust. And I know Finley has talked to Mr. Duke several times. I've talked to him several times. And they were able to reach an agreement with him for the appraised price, and that's going to be $7,500 for 2,316 square feet. And that's going to be, again, along that southeast side of the roundabout. And I picked that contract up from Mr. Duke this afternoon. And just so that everyone's aware, I try to make personal contact with all the property owners, whether I'm directly involved or not, to see if they have any questions, and then to also offer them, especially once we get back to normal, let them know when the city council is going to be taking the matter up so that they're involved in the process and they know everything that's going on.
Any further questions? Mr. Garrett?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed.
Passes 8-0. Thank you, Mr. Hawkins. Thank you, Mr. Finkenbein. I appreciate you going out and reaching out to people personally.
That's gonna be a game changer for that intersection.
Oh, yeah.
Because, you know, going up like that, you can't see, and people turning, well, you probably go by it all the time. Yeah.
Next it'll be, what is that? Meadow Lake in Salem after that, because then you'll be able to go roundabout all the way to Dave Ward. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Hawkins. Next, we have public safety, and first up, we have an ordinance appropriating funds for the purchase of firefighter protective clothing for the Conway Fire Department. Chief Winter, I see you there.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. We had received a donation from Walmart in the amount of $2,500. We're just asking for acceptance of that donation.
Make a motion to waive the 3 readings.
I have a motion and a second to waive the 3 readings. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Passes 8-0.
Make a motion for the adoption of the ordinance.
Second,
I have a motion and a second to adopt this ordinance. Any further discussion? I guess protective clothing has really moved a long ways. Back Chief Ledbetter and I, back when we ran the horses to the fires, we had, our liners were wool. Mr. Garrett.
Mr. Hawkins? Yes. Mr. Pruitt? Aye. Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Yes.
Ms. Mel? Aye. Ms. Isby?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Grimes?
Aye.
Mr. Ledbetter? Yes.
That passes 8-0. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Mayor.
Next,
Mr. Garrett, what is that ordinance number?
Oh, I'm sorry.
02130.
Thank you.
Next, we would like for you to consider to approve the retirement of K-9 Chip for the Conway Police Department. Chief Tapley, will you address this, sir?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me? Are you able to hear me?
Yes,
Yes, we
sir.
can.
Okay, great. So K-9 Chip's been with the department since approximately 2014. He has been our school dog at Conway Junior High predominantly and all of the other schools. He's starting to have some medical issues and performance issues that necessitate his retirement. So we're asking for permission to retire him, remove him from the city's inventory, and then to also turn him over to his handler, Officer Daniel Mulaney.
I have a motion and a second to approve the retirement of K-9 Chip for the police department, and you can let K-9 Chip know I am suffering from the same things that he is. Any further discussion?
Does that mean we are getting a replacement dog, or how does that
Are
work?
you going to replace the K-9 chief?
We are currently working with a community partner that is considering donating funds for another K-9.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Mr. Garrett.
All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed.
That passes 8-0. Next, we have an ordinance authorizing the restructuring and revision or reclassifications of certain titles and salaries for the Conway Police Department Emergency Operations Center. Chief Tapley, would you address this, please, sir?
Yes, sir. As you said, this is a request to restructure and reclassify some of our titles and at the CEOP Center. As you're aware, we've had issues over the last several years with staffing. We believe that this will help us not only to retain the employees that we have, but we'll be able to recruit new employees, and this will make it a safer city for all of our community as well as our first responders.
Thank you, Chief Tapley, and y'all have heard me say this numerous times. This is one of the most mentally taxing jobs, probably the most mentally taxing jobs in the city. Our dispatchers are not only the front line for our citizens, but they're also the front line for our police and fire personnel. So I agree with Chief Tapley that I think this is something we should address.
Make a motion that we
Second motion.
waive the 3 readings.
second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to waive the 3 readings. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 8-0.
Make a motion for the adoption of the ordinance. I have it 02131, as well as the emergency clause.
Second?
I have a motion and a second to adopt this ordinance to restructure and reclassify titles and salaries at the Conway Emergency Operations Center. Any questions or comments, council? Mr. Garrett?
Ms. Isby?
Yes.
Mr. Grimes?
Aye.
Ms. Mel?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
Mr. Ledbetter?
Yes.
Ms. Smith, are you still with us? Mr. Pruitt?
Aye.
In the emergency clause, Ms. Isby? Yes. Mr. Grimes?
Aye.
Ms. Mel?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
Mr. Ledbetter?
Yes.
And Mr. Pruitt?
Aye.
Those,
I'd like to say,
yes, sir, Mr. Jones.
I got one time. I really appreciate you doing this, man, because, you know, we talked about this earlier, how we was about to have a crisis up there. And I really appreciate you working that out, man, because we really need this.
I think it's important and to our city, and I know that our employees really appreciate you guys approving this tonight.
I'd like to add to what the mayor was saying a while ago. I mean, every day we see police officers working, firefighters working, but if y'all ever get a chance to go up there and watch these people, it's amazing what they do in a day's time. It is.
And it's hard. I've said it before. They go from telling someone how to do CPR on a loved one to getting yelled at because someone's trash didn't get picked up. It's a tough job. So anyway, those both passed 7-0. Thank you, council. And thank you, chief.
Thank you.
And our last item tonight is discussion, consideration to approve the strategic plan for the city of Conway. This is really a roadmap for the city, and it's important that all city services are provided to the citizens of Conway in the best manner possible. The mayor's office is charged with planning and the management of our departments and the services they deliver. With council input, we will develop our goals and strive to attain them. The mayor's office is charged with bringing the city government into contact with the business community and to all other government agencies within the city and also within the state. Our strategic plan was guided by citizen input as well as department head input, and I had a chance to brief y'all on it. Y'all may want some more input on it, but we did just have a little chance to discuss that. The strategic plan lays out the necessary roadmap for the next 5 years. It includes addressing the areas of focus that were identified in our citizen survey. The plan is focused on the data provided from the citizen survey. The plan is centered on 4 key areas: vibrant community, infrastructure, public safety, and organizational excellence. Let me get through my spiel here, then we can talk about it. The tremendous response showed to us is that the Conway residents do enjoy a high quality of life here. The key findings were that 83% think that we have a high quality of life here. 72% think we're heading in the right direction. 74% feel safe in Conway, and 71% say that we have good customer service. But there are areas that we can do better. The primary areas, the 2 areas that were talked about the most or drew the most response, was storm drainage and street repair. And y'all all know how much we've been doing on street repair, but you can never do enough. But we are going to continue down the path with our street repair, and we've got to look at some funding sources for drainage if we're going to move forward with that. Recreational program, as you all know, that in 2021 we're going to take a bond issue to the people to discuss an aquatic center and basketball, and volleyball, and soccer. I know the chamber's working on the culture, art, and music end of it. The bicycle and pedestrian travel, we've got BPAP and Terry Coddington, and we're working to continue our trails. In our land use and planning and zoning, James and his staff are working on our comprehensive use plan that they will be bringing to this council in the future. As far as a vibrant community, I'll just hit the highlights. It's direct and guide the growth through appropriate planning. Plan, design, and implement citywide, continue to plan, design, and implement citywide park, recreation, and trail improvements. Enhance public art and preserve the significant historical character of the community. Expand our organizational and community efforts toward diversity. Foster positive and respectful relationships and open communication. And support citizens in need and improve the well-being of the community. As far as infrastructure, is to continue our aggressive street improvement plan. Finley and his crew have done a tremendous job there. and improve and enhance the pedestrian and bicycle infrastructure, as well as establish a public microtransit system to expand transportation opportunities for the community residents, and to identify a mechanism to address drainage and stormwater deficiencies. As far as public safety, it's important that we maintain our Class 1 ISO for the fire department and our accreditation with our police department. Chief Ledbetter has been working with my office and the judge's office and the sheriff's office, as well as police and fire, on developing a plan to consolidate communications and dispatch. And both groups need to enhance in their recruitment and training and promote employee well-being. And Chief Tapley and Chief Winter are both working in unison on developing that for their employees. As far as organizational excellence, we need to continue to manage our financial resources in a responsible manner, and we need to evaluate our revenue sources going forward and how we can add to the general fund. We also need to review and revise our policies at all levels of the organization and evaluate staffing levels, compensation, employee recruitment and retention, identify and plan for capital and facility investment, and optimize use of technology to drive efficiency, productivity, and improve services. Foster effective communications with our residents. What we're planning on doing is do our survey annually so that we can give ourselves something to measure against. And proactively influence policy at other levels of government. And our planning director is doing just that. He is working with the legislature on some of our design standards and some things going forward. So I went through that fairly quickly. I'd like to hear y'all's thoughts on it, and the good and the bad, and we'll just go from there.
I think it's excellent, and excellent work, and a great report, and a great framework. And the mayor and I have talked about this, and what I would like to see is that we come together as a council, because I learned so much when I hear from Theo and Sheila and Mark and about, prioritizing what this framework is, because it is great. And how we're going to allocate our resources, how we're going to measure, have we done a good job? How are we going to make Bart's term successful? Which is, I know what I want. So that's my only request. I would love for us to get together for a morning, maybe a Friday morning. It doesn't have to be on the weekends. Something like that, where we can kind of go through this with the mayor, with the department heads, and really kind of wrap our heads around it. So that's my suggestion. But I think it's excellent.
I think it would be a good idea to have us all sit at the table once again, because it's been a long time since I've seen some of your faces and in person. And I would like to sit across the table, because I get a lot more out of talking to somebody when I can see them and see how they're reacting to something. Did I hear you say that the planning director is going to be doing our updated planning map? Did I hear that correctly?
He is working on that.
I think that's an excellent idea, rather than farming that out to somebody else. I think that he knows more about what's going on in our community than having someone else come in. I mean, we paid tens of thousands of dollars years ago to have that done originally, and it was a fabulous document in the beginning and gave us a roadmap to work on. But I think we've got our people in-house now that can do that. I don't think we need to go outside, and I'm all for having James do that.
Any other thoughts?
Come on.
This is only my second time. I think I'm like you. We need to get together. It's been a while for us. I mean, I'm glad to see y'all. I know you probably don't believe it, see everybody in person. And I'm 100% for doing the meeting somewhere. It doesn't matter. I just need to check my Palm Pilot and see when I got to open it. Okay? But just let me know, and I'm there, man.
Same. I feel the same way. I think that, find a time for us to do it. It could be Friday morning, Friday afternoon, just for a few hours to talk. And I think it would be good for us to not have anything on the agenda but this.
Mm-hmm.
So we're,
And build on it.
Yeah.
so we're not,
And that's a
we're not,
committee
y'all,
meeting
we're not
for
gonna,
sure.
y'all are not going to, I'm assuming we're not approving the.
No, we're going to approve it.
Yeah, I think we
No,
approve
we'll
it.
approve it. In fact,
Yeah.
I'll make
Yeah.
a motion to approve
Okay.
it. I want to work it. I want to use it. I want to,
I'm a little slow. Thank you, Ms. Mayor.
that's what I meant, sorry. So I make a motion that we approve the strategic.
Second.
I have a motion and second to approve the strategic plan as written. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Well, that's what we'll do at this get-together. We'll break it out. Okay, now this will be, we've already voted on it. This will be a public meeting, so we'll have to advertise it and go from there. Well, my apologies, Ms. Mel and Mr. Pruitt, for our earlier discussion. Okay. All right, that's all I have for tonight. Does anyone have anything else? Go Bears! I'll take a motion to adjourn. We are adjourned. Thank you.